Welcome to the 4th edition of Details Matter. I have a very special guest once again. Her name is Roxy. She's a client of mine, athlete of mine, one of my business mentorship students. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
And before we get on with the podcast, guys, just make sure you subscribe and you like the podcast. Hit that like button and the subscribe button. So thanks for joining us once again.
Thank you.
We'll go into a bunch of details about you, about your life, about you as an athlete, working together and all the transitions you've gone through. So I have to say, one of the, when I post your picture, your transformation picture, most feedback ever out of any transformation I've ever posted in my 10 years of doing this.
That's awesome.
And I think it's because you went from one extreme to another, right? And I think a lot of people that have really good transformations, they have good transformations because they were out of shape, because they were, in different, everyone's kind of different, right? Or they get shredded but you went from literally one extreme to another. You had a lot of cellulite on your legs, right? Which I think a lot of women can relate to because, and you're a coach, so you know this, people think that they're predispositioned to it. And, even if they get lean, it's always going to be there. And obviously you proved that that's not true.
Yeah.
We're allowed to talk about cellulite, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we got a good story about that too, so we'll get into that.
Okay, perfect. So anytime I look forward to it. Anytime I post your transformation, I get a load of feedback about it on how great it is and inspiring, and obviously people have nothing but great things to say about it. And you have a great following of people. You coach a lot of people. A lot of people look up to you. You have a lot of clients that look up to you, and a good community of people that look up to you. So I thought it'd be great to have you, and people can learn from you and listen to you. So. You do have an accent, if you guys can't tell. Tell us a bit about where you're from and your background, who you are.
Well, thanks again, obviously, for having me. I didn't realize that, I've never analyzed your analytics. So used to analyzing my own analytics. So that's amazing.
I thought you were going to say, I didn't realize I had an accent.
No, I know, an accent. I mean, if you ask Ryan, it's probably different. He'd probably say I'm fully Canadian now, but... So I'm originally from Cape Town, South Africa. Mm-hmm. We moved over here in 2018, October. Mm-hmm. So we've only been here for about 5 years. This year will be 5 years. We're in the process of getting our citizenship now. So we moved over on permanent residency. And it's been a ride. It's been a journey. It's been something very different. Very, very different.
How old were you when you moved here?
We were 28, 27? 27, yeah.
Let's say 27, 28,
yeah.
Same thing, right? Yeah, so
27.
Let's take it back there first before we get into what you did here. I know you were a competitor even in South Africa. Mm-hmm. You competed, you turned pro in an organization there.
Yes.
So you have that background. You were competing in bikini, which a lot of people would never guess or know, right? Yeah. So we will get into that. But when you were there, let's even take it back even before you got here, because I know you were working in a different industry, but tell us a bit about your childhood. What were you like? Were you athletic? Were you not athletic? Were you in shape? Were you not in shape?
So I think a lot of, because of like you said, let's take it back. So I think a lot of people will be shocked because of the transformation that they've seen of me being overweight. I was actually naturally extremely skinny. Mm-hmm. So growing up, I was very athletic, so played a lot of sports in South Africa. I played netball.
What's netball? Nobody knows what netball is.
I don't know how to describe it. It's very popular in South Africa and Australia. So it's kind of like basketball, but you can't dribble the ball, and whatever foot you land on.
So it's on a court, not in water.
No, it's on a court. Okay, yeah, it's on a court. Yeah. So I used to play indoor, and I played all the way up until my last year of varsity. Yeah. So I played that from grade 1. So that all the way through. I played provincial too. So I was very competitive, always been very competitive. Yeah. That's just my nature. Did a lot of track and field too. Did long jump, high jump. My little short butt did high jump. Yeah. I don't know. Held a couple of records for those. Did 100-meter sprints too. Also competed on into an interprovincial level on that.
What type of sport would you say you were good at? Like, personally, I'm good at endurance-based sports, like medium endurance, not too long, not marathons, but something with a bit of strength endurance. What category of sport would you say you fit into best? Is it sprint? Is it strength? Is it power?
I think it's I love lifting heavy. So for me, like what I'm doing now, especially when you change my program, when I see heavier weights or lower reps. So I'm like, yes, it's an opportunity for me to go heavy. But growing up, I think it was very different. Very fast paced. I noticed that things, I'm very type A, like my brain doesn't really slow down. So I found that was something that I was able to take myself out of that like train or that thought process. I was always very busy, always doing something. Even when I was at home and doing nothing on the weekends, my mom would put up a net for me and I would be outside still like busy. So anything fast paced, so like 100-meter sprints, and I played center court as well. So on the netball court. So I was on the entire court, busy all the time. So a lot of quick movements, things like that.
So you need good cardio for that.
Yeah, I think fast twitch. Now, longevity, no. I tried the 1,500 with the running. I think I came like second last or something. Endurance was not my thing back in the day.
So you don't like all the cardio that you're doing now?
And you know what? It's not a matter of what I like now. Now I got to do what gets the job done. So,
So you were playing sports. So you were skinny, or you were in shape. Let's say you were in shape.
Yeah.
You were in good athletic shape at least. Okay. So I guess that might surprise people because they saw that picture in time, like that picture of you out of shape, which is interesting because like you could see a picture of me in 2000 and whatever year where it was like at my worst, and if that's all you knew of me, you would think, okay, that's where he came from. But I was in really good shape earlier in my life. Same thing, right? So we go through different phases. Life is not just up, up, up. You go down, up, and different things happen, different stress, and you know. So, you were athletic. Were you good in school?
I was, yeah, I was. I did go through a little bit of a transition phase in my life where I moved schools, and for me, I think this was a huge personality shift for me as well. It was a lot of me trying to like find my place in my new school, find a good set of friends. And I was always an A student, always top awards, everything. And I think when I made that transition, I went through a little bit of a rebellious phase. So that caused a little bit of a rift in my school career. But otherwise, I picked it up after that. I managed to pick it up.
Good. Yeah. So tell us a bit about your childhood in terms of like, did you have both parents in your life? Did you, what was your family life like? You have brothers, sisters?
Yeah, I got a little bit of a complicated family tree. So
let's hear it.
So I'll explain. Just try to keep up because it's a little complicated. So I'm my mom's only child. My parents separated when I was about 3. Unfortunately, my mom dealt a lot with addiction with my dad. Not too bad with that, but he had a lot of alcohol problems. He was an amazing man outside of that. I have only great memories of him after they separated. I was about 8 years old when I saw him last. And then I was about 14 or 16 when he passed away. So I was at the place in my life where I decided I wanted to get to know my dad. And I was like, I think it's time that I build a relationship with him, figure out who he is. It's been 8 years since I've seen him. And then my mom did some digging to try to he was a very free-spirited man, so we never really knew where he was 90% of the time. My sisters kind of got a gauge of where he was every now and then, and then we found out when she did some digging that he had passed away. So his family, nobody even let us know that he was gone. So that was tough. But otherwise, I grew up with my stepdad. He was amazing.
Let me just ask you this before you get into that. Do you think you really dealt with that, your dad passing and not really getting to know him?
I think...
Or if you did, how did you deal with it?
I think up until about 5-6 years ago, it used to take a huge toll on me. I never used to be able to sit and have a conversation about my dad. I used to tear up immediately. I used to cry really bad. I don't think it gave me daddy issues. I think my mom did a really good job of playing both roles. And I think just having my stepdad in the house for that 13 years that he was part of my life growing up also was amazing because he was a father figure. So there was always that authoritative figure in my house anyway.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that was pretty pivotal. I'm pretty blessed that I didn't have to deal with, just having my mom around. Although, I mean, she's a tough cookie.
So you had both your mom, your stepdad?
Yeah. I had my mom, my stepdad.
And he had kids, I guess?
Yeah. So here's where the complication comes in. So I'm my mom's only child from both my mom and my dad. And my dad had 2 children, 2 daughters, which are my half sisters, with obviously another lady. She was actually my day mother from the age of 4 months up until 4 years old. So she used to look after me. And then her husband is actually my godfather. And my sisters grew up with their mom.
We're going to make a Venn diagram on the
You have screen. To. It's complicated. Family you have to try to understand it. And then my stepdad had 2 sons too, from another woman. And I grew up pretty close with him. So my eldest brother, he stayed in the house with us. And then my middle brother, which is 2 years older than me, they also have a brother. So I guess you could say I have 3 brothers technically. Yeah. My sisters also have a sister, which have no blood relation to me. But my middle brother, I was really close with. We went to school together. We walked to school together every day. He was there every day. But yeah, I have a really great relationship with both my brothers.
What do you think one of your biggest struggles growing up was that affected you or affects you to this day, that you had to work on, or that you're working on, or just maybe you neglect that you don't even want to work on? Sometimes we know we have some things that affect us and we're like, forget it. I don't have to deal with it.
I think, you know what? I think my biggest struggle growing up was having to prove myself. I always felt like I needed to prove myself. And I think that was, I don't know, maybe that could have been like part of that childhood thing of my dad leaving, or feeling like good enough wherever I went or whatever it was.
Hey, we don't even, I don't think we necessarily consciously make those connections either. Like most of the things that I go through or deal with from earlier on in my life, I'm not conscious of them. I'm conscious of as to why my behavior is the way it is, but I'm not consciously making the connections. Like, I have this issue, therefore that's why I'm this way, projecting it onto the world.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'll never forget it. My mom used to tell me all the time when I was growing up, if you put Roxanne into a specific crowd of people, she's like a chameleon. She can become exactly like the people that she hangs around with within the first week. My accent changed, the way I moved changed, the way I walked, the way I talked. So I think that really stuck with me growing up now, and especially, I mean, we'll get into it a little bit more about the mindset change that I had. It's played a huge role in just the people that I surround myself with now. Because if I am like that naturally or innately, not knowing that I'm doing it, I want to be surrounded by people that are focused on growth, and I want to be surrounded on people that are looking to be better. Before, when I was so conscious of like fitting in or being a certain type of way because that's what was socially acceptable, I wouldn't really care. I would just do what the others were doing because.
And that's a big part of survival, is like adapting to environments, right? So like you adapt to the people around you because it's easier, traditionally and historically, humans, we function and we thrive as a tribe. So you have to be like the tribe, right? And so I think a big part of it is like you adapt your personality to other people so that you fit in and survive, so to speak, right? So I think that the reason I ask you that too is because in my experience with myself and so many other people, you can't really become who you're going to become or who you want to become until you let go of the survival aspects of you, which are traditionally and typically formed earlier on in life, right? It's like you develop these patterns and these behaviors for whatever reason, whatever you've gone through, and then you take those with you to your adult life until you break them down and get rid of them, right? So when do you think that part of you really shifted that part of you, and what part of your adult life?
Probably when I moved to Canada 5 years ago.
Yeah. Was it a big change for you?
It was probably the scariest but most rewarding thing that I've ever done. Having to pick up your whole life, your family, leave everyone behind, not knowing where you're going. When Ryan and I packed up our entire lives, we didn't know anyone here. We never had friends, family. We didn't even know that we were coming to, we knew we were coming to Toronto. we had no idea what Mrs. Sauga sounded like, or
Toby Coke.
Toby Cokey was when we moved here. It was a complete readaptation for us. It was a huge culture shock too.
Yeah.
Financially, also coming from a third world country. So I don't think I dropped that survival. I think I was now able to use that to thrive and to be better.
Yeah.
So I guess it played in my benefit.
Sure,
at that
for
point.
sure.
Yeah.
And I think that moving from you could correct me if I'm wrong, or somebody can, but I think moving from a place like South Africa is very different to Toronto, is very different than moving from China or to like from India to Toronto, because it's a lot more normal, right? Like there's a lot more Indian people, there's a lot more Chinese people that move here. And obviously there's just more people in those countries, but I don't typically meet people that are from South Africa in Toronto. So your accent's going to be very different than what many people have heard. And, like, do you get it often? Or do people know where you're from?
No, never.
Where do they think you're from?
It's either British, or it's Australian.
Wales.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Or the worst, Irish I've gotten, I guess.
Yeah. But you're also, like, mixed color.
So I've got a good. Most people in Cape Town specifically are pretty mixed. Okay. We're a pretty diverse city.
Yeah.
My dad's got a good mixture of background. Some, I would say, like colored, which is not derogatory to say in Cape Town in South Africa. It's actually a race.
Yeah.
So you know how you would fill out like a card: black, white, Indian, colored, Asian, whatever. So colored is actually a race.
Yeah, I learned that from you.
Yeah. So. He's got a little bit of that, but my mom's full European. Both my grandparents from my mom's side are from Belgium.
Yeah.
So there's a good mix, which is also something that I grew up with people asking me a lot of. In the summer, people would be very confused because I would go a different shade. And I also don't have typical like white people features. I have a flatter nose, flatter feet, darker features as well, darker skin, mixed like tones of my skin. So I got that a lot. What race are you actually? Who?
But you were getting that even in South Africa?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So even there, people.
Yeah. Growing up, that was a huge thing for me. So yeah, and that also played a huge role in like that insecurity portion of like fitting in, because like you're asking me who I am and I don't even know. Like I'm a little bit confused at this point, but.
And I do think in those earlier years of our lives, it's like I was really shy when I was younger. I'm still shy. That's my personality. People just don't realize it.
I am too. People don't think so.
But maybe you cultivate it and bring it out in different ways, right? Like, my name starts with an A, so when they would like do the attendance, and I would just be like dreading them saying my name every time, they'd pronounce my name wrong and my heart would drop. And like that gave me the most anxiety ever. It was just hearing my name pronounced wrong, because not many people had foreign names, right? Like an Arabic name, not many people had that. So it's like Michael, Anna, saying all these like traditional names in North America, and then like my name, so they'd pronounce it wrong, and people would laugh and all these sorts of things. So that affected me, right? Obviously now I'm appreciative and grateful, for my diversity, but earlier on it gave me a lot of anxiety, and it shapes your personality to a degree, right? So you moved here. What were you doing right before you got here? For work.
So
what did you go to school for, and then what did you do for work?
So I went
in South Africa.
I went to school for biomedical science.
Okay.
I got my postgraduate in biomedical science. That took me about 5-6 years. From there, I was busy finishing my master's in biomedical science. I was busy writing my papers. While I started working at the forensics lab. So I was a DNA forensic detective. To put it into perspective, I was a CSI back home in Cape Town.
So you saw some
police officer.
Did you see some?
Yeah.
Some real shit.
I did see some weird shit. Yeah.
Let me ask you this question actually, because I heard that you should never do those 23andMe tests, because like they log that, and then if you ever commit a crime, you're done.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're already taking your DNA from the day you're born anyway, so.
But it's in a database now. If I do this 23andMe.
Oh, yeah.
So I should never do it.
No.
Okay.
No.
Warning out there, if you're going to commit a crime, don't ever give your DNA. So what did you do at that job, like forensic analyst?
Yeah, so I was a forensic analyst. I started in evidence recovery.
Okay.
So evidence recovery was, they would bring the evidence from outside. You look like you want to say something.
Oh, I was just wondering if now you're good at like analyzing if your clients are lying or
100%.
Yeah, evidence.
100%. They cannot get away with that. So they would bring it from the outside crime scenes. I would analyze for blood, urine, semen, whatever. I would have to send it off then to sample preparation. So I then moved from evidence recovery into sample preparation. We started running a project as well. Then they used me as kind of like the main analyst for that. So they combined the two. Just to see if they could become a little bit more efficient with the processing, because I mean, South Africa is a third world country, Cape Town. I worked probably on like 30 to 40 cases a day, but mixed between murder, rape, robbery. So it's, you become a little numb to it at that point. I think, yeah.
Were you there when Oscar Pistorius killed his girlfriend?
Yeah, but I never worked on that case.
No.
I never worked on that, no. Unfortunately. So it goes a little further up to that. So then there's reporting offices, and there's other analysts that are actually doing like the analysis of the samples that I've now prepared. So I guess like the important parts are actually taking the evidence off of the crime exhibits, and
accuracy
if you don't do that 100% and you're not completely focused, you could completely miss evidence. You just want to rush through.
And you can't go back and gather evidence once it's done, right?
I mean,
like once the crime scene's done, it's harder to get the evidence, right? Like it has to be done right away. It has to be done precisely.
And it's a lot more time consuming as well.
Tedious, yeah.
I mean, you don't want to screw up a case of like I've had like 6-month-old rape cases. Where, you don't want to mess that up.
You want to
just do your job properly the first time.
Did you like that job?
I thought I did.
What did you really want to do before that?
I wanted to be a CSI my whole life.
You did, yeah.
I wanted to be a CSI my whole life. And then while I was doing it, I was like, man, this is not what TV this is not what TV showed. I thought I was going to get on a case today and I was going to solve it in court tomorrow. But it was fulfilling to a sense, but because like I was explaining earlier, like I'm so go, it became pretty monotonous, very tedious for me mentally. I was looking for something that I could do a lot more growing in. And I think I just hit that ceiling.
It's very redundant, maybe. Yeah. And I think that maybe with something like that, you can only move at a certain pace, right?
Yeah.
At their pace, at the pace that the government or the laws and 100%. All these allow you to, right? And I think that's a big problem with government jobs. People feel like people rather work private sector instead of public because if you work in a small business or a growing business, like a startup, for example, you can do a lot in a very short period of time. Whereas when you're working for a government job, to a degree, you're limited to how much growth you're going to have and how much progress can be made in a short period of time. You can't like break rules, whereas like your own business, you can break all the rules you want. You can work 50 hours a week, you can work 80, you decide, right? So obviously, for me, it was very difficult I always had a hard time giving up jobs. I'm not a person that likes leaving on a bad note. I'm not a person that likes just leaving something. I rather get fired rather than leave on my own terms.
I don't know about that, but
so clearly it was difficult for you to move from South Africa, leaving your job, leaving your family, leaving all that.
Yeah.
I think you could correct me if I'm wrong, but you didn't go back home for a long time when you got here?
I actually went back home for the first time in September. That just passed,
So you didn't see your family for 4 years?
My mom came in October the following year.
Okay.
She stayed for 10 days.
Okay.
And then I hadn't seen her again. That was 2019. I hadn't seen her again since then. And I managed to actually see all my family. All my aunts came from Australia. Yeah. My grandparents were there. Yeah. So we had a nice big reunion. Yeah. All the women were down. It was good.
So when you were in South Africa, you were competing as a fitness competitor. You were competing in the bikini category.
Yes.
Okay. How long did you do that for?
I started competing in 2016.
Okay.
So
not that you didn't leave that long after
2018. Yeah. So I left in 2018.
Yeah. Okay. So 2 years you were there competing. You did well.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah.
You had success there.
Yeah. So I competed for a different federation though. So when I moved here, I changed over obviously with IFBB.
Yeah.
I competed with a federation called PCA. Yeah. They were great. They were amazing. Very different. Mm-hmm. Very different to IFBB. competed. I had a very quick career in bikini. So I competed my first show, placed first in my class. Didn't take overall, but they flew me international. So competed in my first international show. For my second ever show, I was so nervous standing on an international stage. Won my class there too. Also didn't win overall, but they invited me to compete in Body Power. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. Yeah.
UK?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Body Power is massive.
Yeah, it's like one of the biggest expos.
Yeah.
Shows.
So I competed a couple of small shows before that, just as warm-up shows. We have a really big show called Titans. It's an amazing show, very, very, very popular, very hype. And then I flew to Body Power, had a terrible experience on stage there. My physique was so drained and depleted, and I was super dehydrated. I had to step off stage like 5 times to puke in the back. Eventually I got to like top 3 and they were like, sorry, we can't let you back on stage. Anyway, came back, managed to earn my pro card through all of that in bikini. So I don't think I competed again after that. Yes, I did. I did one pro show, placed 3rd in that pro show, which was not terrible. Was good. Definitely a learning curve for me. And then shortly after that, we left. That was June. We left in October.
Okay, and then you moved here. And what was the first job you had when you moved here?
I started working as a personal trainer at Good Life.
Okay.
Good Life, yeah.
Well, how long did you do that for?
Up until I started my business. That was the only job and has been the only job since I've been in Canada. Like you, I don't like to leave business. I don't like to leave jobs.
Yeah.
But I worked my way up there too.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I started as a personal trainer. And then I think about 6-7 months into that, my manager approached me. He said, well, I think, you have good foundational, you have good opportunity. You're great with people. Why don't you interview for the assistant personal training manager? I did, got the job, did that. Worked 10 to 14 hour days there. So I really, really worked hard for that. And then
let me ask you this honestly. Did you even want to work in fitness, or you just kind of got the thing that was the most secure, comfortable, easiest to get at the time, and then you learned to like it more over time?
So mixed emotions with that, because when Ryan and I moved to Canada, the first thing I said to him was, I'm going to recreate myself.
Yeah.
I'm totally going to create a brand new person. Like if I wanted to lie about my entire past, nobody would know. Yeah. I would just be this
it's a good
brand new
starting
person.
Point.
100%.
Blank canvas, yeah.
It was a blank slate for both of us to just totally go in a complete opposite direction. Because at that point, we both realized like we don't want to be in forensics anymore, because he did the same thing too, right? So.
And I do think a lot of who you are is predicated on what's around you. Meaning like, it's not that easy to just wake up one day and be something you want to be, because you're limited to what everyone knows of you already, like your identity. So everyone knows you're this kind of person, you're like that, you do that. You can't just like change the way you speak, change the way, and even though it might be better for you, it's a very difficult thing to do because people are going to think you're a faker.
Yeah.
But you came here and you can say like, I'm going to be exactly who I want to be, and there's nobody to say you've changed, you're a faker, or any of those things that typically hold us back from becoming who we want to be. So it's probably the most freeing feeling in the world.
Oh, it was. So, I mean, I don't think I planned on working at Good Life, to be honest. Yeah. The first thing Ryan and I did the day we landed in Canada was to walk into a gym. Yeah. So we stayed at an Airbnb at Square One, and there's a Good Life in Square One. And the first thing we did within the first 2 hours, we walked into the Good Life and we said, well, we're fresh off the boat. We need jobs. Yeah, literally. We need jobs, and this is what we know best. We do it well, and we're, we've got time and practice in it. So we thought like, okay, like if we could both get jobs here, that would be perfect. We could walk to work, expenses would be low. Like we just came from a complete shift in money exchange, it was a great starting point. So I actually started working within the first 2 weeks of being in Canada. And immediately I dropped and started running. Like I didn't stop. I think the first week I went for my interview, started the week after. We moved around a lot within that period. Also looking for an apartment to kind of, call home at that point. Ryan started working a little later than me. But yeah, to answer your question, like I think that Good Life really opened the scope for me to realize how much I loved being a coach per se, not a personal trainer, but a coach. And I think a lot of people get that very
they're two different industries altogether. Totally. And the reason I even asked you that question, because I think a lot of people are looking for what they want to do before they try doing it, right? Like they're looking for what they love. They're looking to figure it out, and then they're going to pursue it. When in reality, I think you just need to do.
Yeah.
Just figure it out. I remember I was working in a restaurant up until I started my business. So that's the only job I had in my adult life. I was working in a restaurant, and I was working service bar. So I was just making drinks for the servers. So I was making, whatever it was, $12 an hour or something. And, I was cutting lemons, and I have like bad eczema, right? So I have like eczema on my hands, and like my hands were cracking, and I'm like cutting lemons all the time, and like my hands are bleeding. And like I literally walked to the boss one day and I said, I'm quitting. My hands can't do it anymore. I'm done. And he said, do you want to be a manager? I said, sure. Yes, I do. And then from there, I was a manager for like a few years. So that was like, I was like 18 at the time. And then I was a manager up until I was about 21, 22, something like that. And I learned to like working there, not because I actually liked working in a restaurant, but because I was progressing in something. Yeah. And I realized at that time, like when you are progressing in anything, you will love it.
Yes.
You don't have to love what you're doing. You just have to love the growth and the self-development and the progression. And then once that stops, that's when you're going to stop loving it. So I reached a point where like there was no more progression for me there, and that's where I started my business. But I've gone through that same cycle many times in my life, right? And it's like I started training people too. That's what I started doing. Personal training. I would drive all over the city. I would drive to Mississauga. I'd drive to Oakville. I'd drive downtown Toronto. 4 a.m, I'd be training people everywhere. And honestly, I don't know if I liked it or not. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But I don't remember liking it. I remember hating it. But I remember telling myself, just get good at it, max out. Right. And then I did. And then obviously I switched to online, and, same thing. The same thing has happened with that. Like you just need to keep growing and doing. And that just continuously opens new doors for you. But if you have no growth, no new doors are going to open, because you won't see these opportunities in life. Right. So how long did you work as an in-person trainer for?
I worked...
Because you still train people in person, but they're your clients. You're your online clients.
Yeah, they're my online clients. So I worked in person at Good Life up until the start of COVID. I got laid off. I still got a little bit of like my management salary, but it wasn't enough. So I had to find something that I could do online. And I think that was a huge moment for me, because like we just said, I was such a shy person. The person that you see today on social media and in front of you is not the person that I was 3 years ago when.
But you're so good at marketing. I tell people that all the time. You're so good at marketing. It's one of your best skills.
Honestly,
From a business
I think it's something that comes more natural to me now, because one of the biggest compliments, and somebody said this to me the other day, was I met one of my online clients for the first time, and she said to me, she's like, you're exactly the same on your social media as you are in person. And I was like, wow, like that's amazing. So I think I had to go through that.
Who would have thought that would be a compliment, right?
Yeah, right.
It is though. In today,
it is. 2023. Yeah, there's so much crap out there. There's all these freaking apps, and I spoke about this the other day. One of the other podcasts that I did, Face App, Body Tune, twerking, all the filters, things that are going on or whatever on social media. But I think personality-wise was the biggest thing for me. I try to be as authentic as possible. So when people come into my coaching experience, they're not getting a different version of me. They know exactly what my expectations are from the jump. And I believe that's why my clients are so successful too, is because they know my expectations of them just off social media before they reach out. So going back to obviously me having to transition to that online phase, I was extremely shy. Like I had no social media presence. I think I had like 600 followers. I had like 600 followers or something. But I started working in network marketing. So I did an MLM for the entire duration of COVID. And
that's why I didn't like you.
Damn it.
I remember you were doing that now.
Yeah. So really, was I following you?
Yeah. You were my client at the time at the beginning, I believe.
Yeah, I was.
And I was thinking, fuck, I hate these people.
Honestly, I hated it in the beginning too.
Not
but
because of you. I just associate that
money
with certain people that always tried to like get me, you know?
Yeah.
Defense mode, survival mode.
For sure. But I was good at it. I was really good at communicating. And because I was a personal training manager at Good Life, my role there was to communicate really well, to bring new clients in and give them an experience of coaching and what personal training would be like. So for me, now I had to learn this entire new world. Social media was like, we're such private people. I had to put myself out there. I was like, I would get anxious. I think I recorded myself like 20 times before I put my video out on social media. It was like, oh, I hate this. And then I would try a new filter again, like trying to mask all these different insecurities on my social media. And now I'm just like, I found myself through this entire process. And I think also just since we've been working together, the 3 years that you and I've, 4 years this year? 3 years, 3 years.
I think, yeah.
That we've been working together, I've managed to find my authentic self within my competing and my fitness. And like now I'm just like, you either like me or you don't.
Yeah. That's a nice place to be when you have your own business, right? It's like you can be who you are and you can be your authentic self and not worry. Because people are going to be drawn to it more than anything. People are going to like you for that, you know, and that's the beauty of social media when it's used correctly. Like people are going to find, you know, so your clients would never work with me.
Yeah.
Like your type of clients you work with, they would just never resonate with me, and that's normal, and that's actually a good thing. Right, and largely that's because your marketing is in line with your messaging, which is in line with your sales, which is in line with your coaching. Yeah. Right, and there can't be a discrepancy in any of those three things: your sales, your marketing, or your coaching, like your fulfillment. They all have to be the same, because if you know people sell something and then they don't coach the same way, people are going to come in and the expectations are, there's a disconnect with it, right? And I think that's what you've mastered, is the connection between all three of those things, where you can communicate your messaging, you know, and then when people come into your system, they understand what they're getting into, you know, and that's when you're going to have clients become successful very quick, right? So you started your online business, you know, where were you at in terms of physically? Like, when did this like before picture start? Let's talk about that.
So
we'll put it on the screen so people can see it.
That was such a distinct day. And I'll never forget the emotion that was running through me. I was still working at Good Life at the time. It was through the COVID transition period. So we were like back in the gyms and then not. Yeah. Things were shutting down. There was a lot of uncertainty with the world and what was going to happen. At a couple months before that, before you and I started working together, so I was working with a previous coach and I was supposed to do a show in bikini. And my show was canceled, everything, and I was not coached out of his program. I gained about 45 pounds, maybe 50. So I think that's the heaviest I've ever been in my entire life.
What did you weigh at that point?
Roughly? Like about 186.
Okay.
Yeah. Jeez.
So we were the same.
Yeah. Wow. You didn't tell me I was a fatty when I can't see it.
I'm more than 186.
Yeah, but you're a guy. You're so much taller than me. But I mean, like, now that I'm saying it out loud, I'm like, wow.
Where were you mentally and physically at that point? So, like, what did you look? We're going to show pictures, but like, describe what you felt like, what you look like at that. And because I think the reason I'm asking, because a lot of the women that you work with, from what I've seen, I think are sort of at that starting point, right? Yeah,
even mentally too. And I think that's why I resonate so well with my clients. I have such a beautiful relationship with my clients because I mean, and you understand this, like either you understand what your clients are going through because you've gone through it, or your clients love you for something because
they admire.
because they admire you for never having to have gone through that, or you've never had to go through the struggle.
Yeah, like you're a hero.
Yeah.
For being so perfect.
Exactly.
Or we've gone through it, I can help you through it.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's why I have such a good relationship with them, because I would say like 90% of my clients come to me and they're in a space of where I was. So mentally, I was probably at my lowest, living on EI. And we were still immigrants when everything shut down.
Unemployment insurance for people that don't know.
Yeah, unemployment insurance, government allowance, pocket money. Yeah. So yeah, Ryan was working, and then there was a point where I was working a little, and then he also got laid off. So now we were both kind of like just earning a little bit extra money and doing things here and there. So for me mentally, like I couldn't see the light. It was hard, you know. Thank God to my mom for raising me in a Christian home, because I don't know what else I would have relied on at that point. But I was pretty low. I remember standing in the change room the day that I took that. It was actually on my birthday, on the 3rd of October, 2019, I think, or 2020. And I was bawling my eyes out. I was crying. I FaceTimed my one of my best friends here. And I said to her, I was like, I cannot find a single thing to fit me. Like, how am I in the fitness industry and have been in this for so many years and I look like this? Like, how am I binge eating when nobody's watching? Like, what happened to me mentally to get me here? Like,
how did it become so weak?
Yeah. I've never been a weak-minded person. My mom never raised me that way. I watched my mom be everything in the household. My mom was the breadwinner. If you asked my mom to get on a roof and paint it, or if she needed something done, she would pull out a drill, do it herself. She was so self-sufficient. My mom put me through school. Like, she was literally like a superwoman. You know, she was superwoman to me. And she raised me the same way, to be so self-sufficient. I think you've figured that out. It takes a lot for me to come to you to ask you for help when I'm struggling. But it's just had that like figure it out mentality. So I think I did a lot of suffering in silence. And I remember having a conversation even with my mom at that point, saying to her, like, you know, we only have our South African money and a little bit of the money that we're surviving on with unemployment insurance. And she's like, well, like, why did you never tell me you were going through this? I would have helped you. And it's not your problem. I'm a grown woman. I'm in a completely different, you know, country. So of course that figured out mentality, but it doesn't take away from the reality of what you're facing, obviously, in that moment.
It doesn't solve the problem either.
No, 100%. And again, I was drowning in my own, you know, I was just drowning in my own mind. You know, if you asked Ryan, he would give you a different perspective. You know, he would say we were never struggling. Yeah. You know, we know how to survive. Yeah. It's not hard.
It's also perspective. It's also expectation. Like, I didn't think I'd be here in this point, right?
Yeah. It was also very humbling. I had to ask my landlord to lower the rent. Food's a lot more expensive here. So some days I had to dig in a little bit more on my savings, or I had to be a little extra fake on my social media to sell more shampoo or whatever it was, you know. And you know, I was doing everything I could to make means, you know, make things meet. So I think that was a huge that was also a really, really big pivotal point for us, I think, being in Canada. And it was then where I just said to myself, like, I don't think that I can handle living in so much uncertainty any longer. I need to find something
stability
that I'm going to create my own stability. I'm not going to rely on Good Life opening again. And so I started contacting all my clients that used to train with me in person at Good Life, started training them through Zoom on social media, online.
FaceTime, whatever.
Yeah. FaceTime, Zoom, whatever I could get. And then we found a gym, and I just said, I was like, I'm going to open my own coaching business. That's it.
Yeah.
And
I think that it's interesting you say that, because the reason more than likely that you want to help people in fitness is the same reason I do, because, you know, although for me, it's not about like physique and all that. I do care about that, but I know that how much it did for, like, when you're at a low point in your life and the only thing you have is like nothing but yourself, you use what you have. Yeah. And the thing you have is your fitness. Like, you build yourself up through your workouts. You build yourself up, you know, your character through showing up, through going through it, through like overcoming. And when you don't really have opportunity and you have nothing to work with, you use what you have, which is fitness. You know, that's the best place to start. And I think that's why people fall in love with it. And I think that's why people want to be coaches more than anything, because of what it did for their own life, not just physically, but how that same, you know, the learnings and the teachings and the growth you achieve through it, how it affects the rest of your life, financially, emotionally, spiritually, all that, right?
Yeah. yeah. Yeah, when I look back at where I was, that was the point that I think that I had just contacted you too, when we just started working together. I'll never forget you making me run my condo stairs in the middle of COVID.
Yeah, I remember.
I used to send you videos of my legs shaking in the beginning.
So you're 186.
I get myself into.
You're 186. How long did it take us to make that transformation?
10 months.
And we did your first show together, right? You won that show. You won everything at that show. So you went from your lowest point in your adult life, I would say, in your words, to your, I don't want to say it's your highest point. I would say it was your best point physically.
Yeah.
Right. You won your show, everything was amazing, at that point. And then we did another show a few months later, which is the national show, and you didn't do well. You came last.
Second last.
Second last. Sorry.
Give me the one. Give me the one, okay?
Excuse me. Right. And deservingly so.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's say that, right? And I think that why it's so important is because people will look at that picture of, the transformation you made and see, wow, that was that was the most growth you made in this time period, but it's not. Because you've gone through different iterations of yourself through this time period. And I know that from firsthand experience because I still, I'll just use this raw term. I still looked at you as being a loser at some point until there was a shift in you, know? And I think that shift in you is what made me start to like you in terms of thinking of you as someone that can be a good athlete. Okay. And I'll speak from a coaching perspective because I don't think many people speak about this. You work with many different athletes and not everyone's the same. People come from different backgrounds. And there's some people that win shows that don't deserve it. And there's some people that lose shows that, are winners. So just because you win doesn't make you a winner. And just because you lose doesn't make you a loser, right? And that's why the end result doesn't matter. It does matter because that's what we're pursuing. And I always tell people, you show up to win. But it really doesn't matter at the end of the day because you could have won everything and you would have never changed who you are potentially. And at the end of the day, you won't be happy with yourself. You in your own words, you got sick of even your job because you couldn't grow in it, So the growth is what we really want, right? So let's even talk about that. What was that shift? Because I know just knowing you and coaching you, I could see a huge shift in you, right? What was that shift like?
Losing. That was me losing.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I remember getting off the stage and I think you remember I was very emotional. I always set high expectations for myself.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me the other day why are you gunning so hard to become a pro in your sport? And I was like, why shouldn't I?
Yeah.
If I'm not going to do my best at absolutely everything that I put my hands on, then what's the point? Mm-hmm. And that's always been my mentality. I think that's why I was a good athlete. I always pursued that. But for me, it was a really humbling experience coming off of that stage, not having even gotten first call outs. Mm-hmm. I only got second call outs because there were only 8 people on the stage. Yeah. But I'll never forget what you said to me the day when I stepped off that stage was, you needed to lose. Mm-hmm. You needed to lose to know what it takes to be able to win on a stage like this.
Yeah.
And that's the shift that I had from that show and now. Yeah. But I think the shift, there were progressive shifts along the way, between that before picture and now, and where I was at the show it's just your style of coaching. And I think that's why we mesh so well together because of that figure it out, don't be a weak-minded person kind of mentality and that growth mentality as opposed to just kind of babying me or saying I slipped up this week. Oh, it's okay. I didn't need that in my life. That's not something that I needed. I needed something that was going to take me to the next level. I needed somebody there that was not going to baby me, even at an older age, 30 years old, you still need somebody who's going to drive you to become better. And
it's just more than anything, it's holding somebody that can hold you accountable to you, right? That's all it is, holding a mirror in your face and saying this is what you really look like in whatever it is you're doing, personality or behavior or attitude or effort or you could break it down any way you want. Yeah. And I think that it's very difficult for people to grow unless you have some sort of objective metric to use, because like, how do you know if you're doing good or not doing good? And like, how can I force somebody to realize they're not doing good also, right? And that's why there have been so many iterations of yourself along the way, because like we've had talks, we've had, just gone through different phases, and
we've had talks.
Right. And you learn about yourself. Right. And it's sometimes those just honest conversations that we've had. And, I remember one very specific one, but when was that one?
That was
after your show.
That was after my show. That was before Nationals.
Yeah.
Right. I know we're talking about the same one. Yeah, that was before Nationals. And again, that was a huge, it was like a reality check. I got comfortable. I just won overall. Like I was super chuffed with myself, I guess I needed to realize that the work ethic that got me to win an overall in a regional show is not the same work ethic that I could have used to win a national show. And it was clear. It was evident. The work ethic was not, I was still using that same mentality and that same work ethic to try to win a national show, and it wasn't enough.
So what I want to know more than anything is like, what did you have to give up about yourself, and who did you have to become in order for you to become who you are now? Because again, like even after losing that show, you changed a lot, right? And like, who did you forget, like that you needed to be more to win, and you wanted to win so bad, and now you want to win, and you had to change who you were, and like, what did you have to give up about yourself? What was holding you back? Because I think that's for a lot of people. There's something holding them back that stops them from saying, they either do one of two things. They either get better, they say, forget it, this is not for me, and they quit because they don't want to hear the truth anymore. Right? And like, even stepping on stage and losing, that's just hearing the truth over and over. You suck, you suck, you suck. Right? Like,
I think it's two things. Because I've been so good in this sport for so long, the first thing was ego.
Ego's huge.
Yeah, massive. That was a huge knock on my ego. Like, I've never lost like that before in anything that I've done. Like, I was in grade 3 throwing the ball in my opponent's face if I lost a netball match. Like, that's the kind of like, desire that I had to be the best since I was really, really young. So for me, it was just totally dropping my ego and being like, you know what? Like, the reality is, like, you were shit.
Not good enough.
You were not good enough. And I had to separate. So this is the second thing, but it ties in with the ego, is I had to separate my emotion from feeling like I wasn't good enough growing up in trying to fit in, and feeling like I was not good enough on that day and I wasn't able to win. So now I've taken that same ability to separate my emotion from like my day-to-day disciplines of the things that I need to do. Like, when people ask me now in the middle of my prep, like, how are you feeling? I'm like, I'm great, I'm good. How's prep? Oh, prep's prep. It's second nature to me.
Yeah, but before you would complain.
100%.
That was who you were before.
Exactly. So,
and see, it's these little things that people don't realize, but now, like, now when I communicate with you, it's productive communication, because, and it's not because I don't want to hear that someone's tired or any of those things, because that is vital information when it's not a complaint, right? Like, so when you have clients, like, it's important when they're telling you those things, when it's like objective feedback, like, this is how I feel, you need to know those things. And as a coach, I can take it serious because I know it's not complaining, and so you did separate that part of yourself. Like, that's who you were. And that's probably not who you always were, but you took on that identity through gaining weight, maybe through that place you were in your life. And then you had this like great transformation from start to where you were, but like, you were still hanging on to that because, like, in your mind, you're like, I am good because I came from here. So this is what I'm trying to say. People look at like where they came from and they're like, I'm good because I started here. Like, I started here and I got here, but like, the goal's here. And that's why I always say, don't do things the best you can do it. Do it the best it can be done. I
say that's literally what gets me through. Like, people looked at, even just today after I messaged you this morning about doing my cardio, like, I must have looked like an absolute crazy person. I did 30 minutes of sprint intervals on the stairs, took a 2-minute break. Even Ryan messaged me. He was like, what are you doing? Did another 30 minutes of sprint intervals, running up the stairs, got off the Stairmaster and started doing sprints on the treadmill. People came to me and they were like, are you okay? Like, why are you doing so much cardio? And the only thing that I have replaying in my head is like, what you may be doing, maybe you're like, you may be saying like, this is you doing your best, you're doing your best, but no, you have to do it the best way possible.
Yeah. Like,
and that's the best way possible.
Because maybe your best is not good enough to get the job done.
Yeah.
So what is the best way possible to get the job done? Like, who do you have to be to get the job done?
Yeah.
And that's going to force you to rise up.
Yeah.
Right. Versus like you saying, this is the best I can do it. Because you're the same person I'm sitting here with a year later, but you're very different.
Yeah.
So how can you be the same person with a very different perspective, very different mindset, very different like take on everything that you do? Like when you do cardio now, you want to do it.
Yeah.
Versus like just going through the motions and just checking off the box like I did it. Because intent is everything. Effort 100%. Is everything. So before you're doing it, but like the effort's not there. The intent is not there. You're just doing it to say you did it. I do 2 hours of cardio. I'm so focused. I'm this and I care so much. But in reality, the results don't show. You know, and of course it's great relative to where you were.
Yeah.
But to be a high level athlete, to be very good in a sport, like no one cares about your feelings. Mm-hmm. Like the higher you climb, the less your feelings matter.
Yeah.
You know, and like that to me, from the outside, that's the biggest change I saw in you.
Yeah, that was tough. Like you're saying, it's definitely something that I had to let go of because it's like the story, like it's the story that you tell yourself. Like you're only. If you continuously tell yourself every single day, like you wake up and you're like, I'm tired, that's all you're gonna feel the whole day. Or if you're living in the past or you're living based off the person that you were 5 years ago, you're gonna continue to live that way. But if you are living in a state of mind of like you're acting as if, like I need to do cardio as if I'm already a pro. Mm-hmm. If that's my goal, I need to act as if I'm already a pro. My intention is to become a pro. So I need to be intentional with my cardio. I need to be intentional with my training. It's like I can do level 8 on the stairs and burn more calories than somebody doing level 16 beside me, not doing intentional cardio.
Yeah. You have to already become it before you become it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the most confusing thing for people when I tell them, like, you already have to be doing, you don't turn pro and then start training like a pro.
Yeah.
You train like a pro to become a pro. Like, you don't become a millionaire and then say, like, I'm going to start waking up early. I'm going to start reading books. I'm going to start trying. I'm going to start giving a shit. I'm going to start walking around, shaking people's hands and being respectful and networking and doing all these things. No. You do that and that's why you become the millionaire.
Exactly.
So people have it backwards. They think that, like, something is just going to fall in my lap and I'm going to be successful, or I'm going to get that body, I'm going to get a pro card, and then I'll start training like a pro.
Yeah.
You know, sure, sometimes we need some sort of barometer to figure out, like, where am I? Mm-hmm. Like, maybe I need to step on a stage, stand next to people to be like, okay, I'm not as good as I thought, or I'm not as bad as I thought. Mm-hmm. Right? Or like, for me, it's like, I want to meet as many millionaires or successful business people as possible so I can have some sort of gauge to say, like, okay, maybe I do work hard enough, or I clearly don't work hard enough. I'm not as good as I thought I was, right? And that's all. Sometimes we need that realization, that accountability, right? And you obviously do that even for your clients, right? I see the results you get with the women you work with, and you get very good results. What's the name of your coaching business?
Life coaching.
Yeah, life coaching.
LYF. Yeah, life coaching. It stands for Love Yourself First.
Okay.
And I don't know how I came up with it. I was actually just driving one day. And I was like, I've gone through this entire process of learning to re-love myself again. Yeah. And I think I was like, how can I incorporate that into my coaching?
Yeah.
Because that's essentially what the woman that I coach, that's what they're lacking is the self-respect, the discipline and
so, like, would you say you work with a lot of people that cheat on their diet, binge eating, stuff like that?
Yeah, that's a big portion of my clients. I have a couple of clients that are there to, some athletes now, clients that want to focus on gaining more muscle. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they've seen me go through the transition now from bikini to wellness, and they see my work ethic too. And I think that's pretty inspirational for them. But majority of my clients are fat loss clients and clients that struggle with binge eating. Mm-hmm. And whenever I tell them the story of how I used to, like, not even Ryan knew I was binge eating at that point. I would sit in the car. Boxes. I would sit in my office at the gym, I would eat like stupid crap. Like I would eat like 6 protein bars in a row for no reason.
Because it's not about the food. It's not about what you're eating.
No.
It's about like
looking
why
for
you're
the
doing it.
dopamine hit in that moment, you know?
Constant. Up and down, up and down, up. And then you go down,
100%.
you bring yourself back up. That's why fasting is so good. Honestly, that's the number one reason fasting is so good, because, and even take it like a step further, and like religious fasting is so good.
Yeah.
Like not even drinking water, not doing anything, like if you're Muslim, because when you're doing that, you completely eliminate any sort of pleasure out of your life, any sort of stimulation. Like you don't realize, like, sure, people are like, I'm fasting 16 hours. I don't eat 16 hours a day. I eat 8 hours a day or whatever. But like you're having energy drinks, you're having iced coffees, you're having like all like chewing gum, all these things that are just little hits of dopamine, like pleasure to bring you back up, bring you back up, bring you back up. And when you have nothing and you're just raw, like at your rawest form, you're faced with yourself.
Yeah.
And like you, first of all, you realize how much time you have in your day. You're like, well, like thinking about food. I don't think about food. I'm not going to the fridge. I'm not going to Starbucks. I'm not going to the store. You have so much free time in your day, and you have so much free thoughts in your day. And like when you're at your rawest form without this constant up and down stimulation, that's who you are.
Yeah.
And most people can't sit with that.
I think now that you're speaking about it, I think one of the biggest, I don't know, I just find like speaking to a lot of women, people in this day and age don't do a lot of self-reflection.
They can't sit with themselves.
No,
we're distracting ourselves.
Social media is always in your face. Netflix. There's so many things. There's so many distractions. Like people don't read. When I was younger, like I was playing outside on, you know, going for walks, playing with a ball, like doing things. Like you don't see kids doing stuff like that anymore. It's just all like scrolling mindlessly, aimlessly doing things. So I think now people are losing themselves more than ever, especially with the direction that, you know, that the world went in, and it's
I think COVID is one of two things for most people. Either it was really good for you, or it was like a hard realization for you of or like a hard wake up call for you of life, of like it broke you down. And I think for me it was really good for me. And I feel guilty saying that sometimes, because like I know people had a hard time with it, and we were closed. Like our business was, we weren't closed, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But I think it was really good, because I'm not even a social person, so I didn't have to go anywhere.
Yeah.
I didn't have to say, no, I'm not going, and not feel bad, right? But I think that it just was a wake-up call. And for some people, it was the thing that broke them, because, you know, like life was carrying them for so long. And then finally, like, you know, they got out of the routine, they got out of their habits, and like everything fell apart, right?
Yeah.
So
people don't know how to adapt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a big adaptation process for a lot of people.
That's the number one predictor of success, right? It's like the Darwin theory of like, you know, the survival of the fittest. You have to be able to adapt to anything, right? And not be so stuck in your ways, right? You think like even a Bruce Lee quote is like, be like water. You know, like water flows, it goes, you put it in a cup, it becomes a cup. If you put it in a bottle, it becomes a bottle. It just takes shape of whatever their environment is, right? And I think you're a testament to that. So I think that, you know, no matter what you're going through, you know, whether it's COVID, or there's always going to be these things in our life, whether it's COVID, a loss of a family member, illness, whatever it is going to be, there's always going to be something, right? And I think when I know from working with people, it's like that's the opportunity where people either grow, you go up, or you stay the same or go down, right? Like you go up or you go down. So when you're working with these women, you know, like what is it that you think you offer? Because you have such a unique market. Like the women you work with, I see, like even when they come to your show and they watch you and the way they communicate with you, like I very rarely see that market of women here. It's just a different personality, right? And it's not a bad thing. It's just, there's a person for everyone. Like my clientele is very different. My employees' clientele is very different. So what is it that you think you provide to them, or like those mindset shifts that they have working with you that they can't get from other people?
I think the biggest thing that I think that I offer for my clients is I take a lot of time to try to understand the root cause of what does not allow them to detach their emotions, or why they are so emotionally attached to the story that they tell themselves every day. And then finding that relatable point of giving them hope to know that there is a way to come out of it. Because there's not much, honestly, with it. There's not much in that process, because 90% of my clients come from where I was, that I can't really relate to. I try my best to be on top of, always checking in on them, making sure that I, I show them that I give a shit. I think it's so easy for a lot of like other coaches, just dish out a program, dish out a diet, but like the podcast, details matter. Like that's a huge thing for me. I'm paying attention to their triggers. I'm paying attention to if they are telling me they're tired, is it because they're just being lazy? Like, why are you saying you're tired? What's going on in your personal life? I'll ask questions to understand. So the biggest thing is communication. I love my clients.
I think you care more than anything.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes somebody successful in this, and you might go through phases in your life where you don't care because you're stressed, because you're dealing with things, or like you're not focused, and your work will suffer, and then when you recalibrate and you're going through, you refocus and you realize like, okay, like my effort is the most important thing in my business.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that, when I look at how you coach people, like you posted something one time, which I think stood out to me so much. And it's not just marketing, because you're genuine in what you said, but even from a marketing perspective, it was genius, but also just from a coaching perspective, like I could tell that's why you get the results you do and people love you, which is, you posted a screenshot of like all the messages you got that day, which honestly, for a coach, it's overwhelming when you're like getting messages and like it's check-in day and like you're getting so many messages, and you wrote like that, I'm so happy to wake up to all these messages from these clients. Whereas I know most coaches would think the opposite. They're overwhelmed by it. They're frustrated by it. Or that they're, most, like I've seen coaches post like, I'm going to be busy with my show. Don't message me for this next week. And it's like they post that on social media, which is just pretty much saying my show takes priority over you. The fact that you've been paying me all this time, for the fact that you're still paying me even for this time that I expect you not to message me. So it's just a testament to you and how much you care about the clients you work with, which I think is the most important thing. Like you're showing that there's nothing more. First of all, there's nothing no question you can ask me that I'm going to say is a waste of my time.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you have questions, that's what I'm here for.
And that's important, because I had one of my clients, a lot of people feel like they're a burden when they come in to work with me, or I'm sure you've had a lot of clients say to you like, I know you're busy. I didn't want to bother you.
Yeah. I hate that.
I'm like, that's why I'm here.
Yeah,
that's exactly why I'm here.
That's why I'm here. That's why I have you as a client.
Bother me as much as you want, That's the point of having a coach. I always tell my clients, especially my brand new clients, I'm like, save me as your 911. Like, you're going to need something in this journey, and I got to be your go-to.
That's why the only way to be successful as a coach is it has to be your lifestyle. Yeah. It won't work if it's a part-time, if you're just kind of doing it. Like, it has to be your lifestyle, and your lifestyle as a coach has to revolve around your coaching.
Yeah.
Like when I go to the gym, it has to revolve around my check-ins. When I go to, take a long drive, it has to revolve around my check-ins. I can't just like decide to get in my car and go wherever I want, whenever I want, right? And I know, because I work with a guy, and he's always saying sorry. Yeah. Like he like drops a dumbbell too much. He's like sorry. The guy hit my head today, and he's like sorry. I'm like, man, I hit my head. Like it wasn't you.
It's so Canadian though.
No, but he's not even Canadian. But he doesn't want to feel like a burden.
Yeah.
And the point is like, for whatever reason, like maybe people feel that way in their personal life, or other coaches make them feel that way.
Yeah.
But also, like, I think that now more than ever, people have less support than ever in their life. Like, where do you get support from now? Social media, that's not real support. So, like, people are more fragmented. Like, families are more fragmented. Like, fewer and fewer people have both mother and father in their life. So, like, families are more broken in that sense. So, it's just, like, energy is distributed further and further, like, from parents, and then you have now children growing up and, like, don't have as much support and encouragement and all that. Potentially, and so now you have people that rely on that more than ever. So what coaching is changes, right? Like coaching now, you have to be potentially in 2025 more of a supportive coach than you had to be in 2019.
Yeah,
and that's always going to change, because humans evolve, and we have to be able to adapt to what people need, right? And I think that now more than ever, what what you offer is what people need. Like you provide that support and that encouragement and that for people. I think people need guidance less than ever. Like people don't need the roadmap more than ever. They need the support, like the energy to get there, right? Like in 2019, before COVID, if you give people the roadmap, they were already energized. They had the social pressure. They'd go to the office. They needed to look good because people would judge them, or they felt like it at least. So they were already energized from like the external pressures. Yeah. Now you're sitting at home. You don't got to go to work.
You're comfortable.
You don't have to put on dress clothes. So you don't have the accountability from the clothes that you wear to go to work. You don't have accountability from people judging you at work. So all these little things play such an intricate role in like our own personalities. So what people need changes, and now people need more, just more like support than ever, and honestly, I'm not like the most supportive guy. So like for me, it's harder.
I don't believe that's true. I've heard you say that multiple times. I don't think that's true. I don't think I would.
No, I don't think
as a coach.
I don't think I'm like the most. You're way more supportive to people than I am. Like I'm just like, well, whatever, get lost. You can't do it, man. It's not for you. It depends.
That's why I work with females.
Yeah, I think it depends on the person too. I think it depends on whether the person cares or they're just, doing it for certain reasons, right? And if the person has potential, or it's, it's circumstantial, right?
Yeah.
So tell me what's the progression of your business been? Like I know you're in my business mentorship, like that I teach. It's primarily my employees, and then I have a few other people in it. And I'll tell you, like a year ago, I wouldn't have let you join it, right? You were ready for it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about your business. I'm just talking about your focus and you. And I think that you, like I said, you've come such a long way in such a positive way as a person. And I think that, you were ready for it because you developed yourself, and you did that. Nobody else did that for you. And I think that, so you did join my business mentorship, and, I know that you're like now killing it, right?
Yeah, honestly.
And I'm not trying to say like I had anything to do with that. That's not why I really want to know what
but you did play a role in that.
Sure. I want to know what you did, like what you changed, why you think your business is as successful as it is and growing every month.
Honestly, outside of, I would say, just the structure of the way I change things around. I also realized that I'm not always a superhuman. I can't do everything on my own. So I do have my amazing assistant that helps me with a lot of my business side of things. But I think the biggest progression that I made, or the biggest reason why my business shot up, and the reason why a lot of my clients are getting such fantastic results now, is because of my own personal mental shift. Mm-hmm. So I was able to...
You're stable.
Yeah, mentally. Yeah. I was able to translate that into absolutely everything. And I tell this to my clients too. When you feel shit about yourself, everything around you suffers. Your relationships, your business, the way that you conduct your business.
The way you view life.
100%.
Like, you're going to see pessimism everywhere. Like, you're going to see negative in everything. Like, you go here, you're like, fuck this place, fuck that. Like, that. Yeah. Like, everything is just like shit. Right? And when you look at life from a different lens, it's different.
Yeah. So it's now I have that mentality that it's like, it's never not been a figure it out mentality for me, but now again, like it's more about, I know what the job is, mm-hmm. and I know what it takes for me to do it, but how can I do more? How can I provide more? How can I under promise and over deliver, mm-hmm. in everything that I do? Mm-hmm. And that goes for myself too, even in my competing. Mm-hmm. Maybe 5 minutes extra cardio, going for an extra 2,000-3,000 steps. And I think that's what's really made even a difference in this prep. Like my mental space. This prep is totally different to the last one that we did together.
Because you're going above and beyond, right?
Yeah.
Be above and beyond what's expected of you. And that's the real, like the real winners, because you have to do more than you're told. You have to put more effort. Like nobody can ever tell mm-hmm. you how much effort is the right amount of effort.
Yeah.
Like when someone says to me, do you think I'm working hard? First of all, the answer is no, because you asked that question.
Yeah.
The thing you should be saying to me is, I'm working as hard as I can. I don't know how to work harder. If you really are.
Yeah.
If you do really believe you're working as hard as possible, like mm-hmm. you're going all in. And I don't think most people do that. Like, ask yourself, like, do I really go all in?
Yeah.
Do I really put like every ounce of everything I have into this? And I think that people should always, like at one point in their life, and I tell our lifestyle clients this, like everyone should get shredded at one point in their life.
Yeah.
Like just, even if you don't even want it, just do it. Just suffer. Like just push yourself to that level so you can see like how far you can really push yourself, so you can understand what you're made of.
Yeah.
Because if you never go to that extent, you never really understand who you are and what you're made of. Right? Otherwise you're just like, go coasting.
I said that to one of my goals today too. I said suffering builds character. Yeah. Like if you're not willing to suffer a little bit for the sake of growing, like you're just gonna stay at the top of your cap all the time. You're just gonna be at that point in your growth, and you've hit the ceiling, and if you're not going over and beyond, and you're not suffering a little bit, whether it be sleep or sacrificing a little bit of food, or an entrepreneur of sleep, then you're never gonna get past that sticky point. And it's always when I'm struggling the most and I'm suffering the most in anything that I'm doing, even my business, when I just feel like, I just have no more energy left to give, but I do it anyway because I know that that's exactly what I have to do. My breakthrough moment comes. Always.
It's on the other side. It's always the reward is always on the other side. Yeah. And I can't ever explain whether that's like a literal thing, whether that's like a metaphorical, but like every time that happens, it's almost like it's your test. Sometimes I think it's like you could say it's a test from God to say like, how much do you want it, right? There's that side of it, spiritual, like religious side, like how bad do you want it? And like, it's a test. But at the same time, it's like, it is your tolerance, like your stress tolerance. Like you are doing everything you can, and when you finally can like continuously work through it, then it's like literally right there. You just haven't seen it. You haven't seen that light because you've never been past that point. Yeah. So you have to keep going until you reach a point further than you've ever gone. And then it's right there, right? So it's always like just on the other side of it. And that's a great book that I always talk about, which is called 3 Feet from Gold. It's like you're digging and you don't realize you might be 3 feet from gold, and then you dug like hundreds of feet, and then you just stop because you're like, I don't find the gold. And it's like on the other side.
And we've got stories I've got stories like that throughout my whole life, even just a simple story that is on my social media of us coming to Canada. They lost our paperwork like 3 times, 2 times. We were supposed to be here like a year and a half before we got here or something like that. And we were just persistent. If we just stopped and gave up, we would never have been here. I would never have gone through all of this. So that's just a simple example.
What do you think is the sticking point before we wrap it up? What do you think the sticking point for you now to turn pro is? What do you think you have to get over in your own personality, in your own self?
Haven't thought about this.
I'll tell you, for you, I believe it's seeing yourself there now. Like I do believe you're acting on it now. Like your intention is there. I do believe your effort is there. I do believe all those things. I believe for you now, it's like seeing yourself there. Because like you can also go through the motions, but like you have to connect with the outcome. You have to start with the end in mind, and like you start and you see it every day. And like even when you're training, like you envision it and you see it, and when you go through that, that's what allows you to finally connect, like close that gap. It's like it's clear. Now I just gotta and like. When you have that clarity in your mind, the actions on a daily basis become more clear.
Yeah.
And it becomes like, it's not even suffering at that point. Like, so what you're saying is like, you have to suffer, which is right. But once you get so good at connecting to the outcome, it's not suffering. You actually feel like it's like a release of some sort. You're like, this is the best feeling I've felt in my life. Like I'm fucking high all the time from this suffering, that's the point now. But like that comes largely from, I believe, like just feeling the outcome, seeing the outcome in your mind and like really believing it. And that's a hard thing for people too, right? Because like now you're trying to envision something that's like not even there. It's like make believe. But it's faking it until you make it. And people, as if. People always say like, faking it until you make it, it's bullshit. I don't believe. I think you have to see yourself there in order for you to understand what you need to do to get there. Right?
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree. So that's...
It's going to be a daily thought now for you.
It's going to be a daily thought, yeah. I mean, it is something that I'm working on. obviously I'm human. I have my days.
Of course. Every single person does.
Yeah, where I'm just like, oh, is this even going to become reality for me? But, like you said, like I found really good supportive people that are speaking it into my life on a daily basis. People that are pros. I'm training with some pros that are speaking it into my life. You are supporting me. You're speaking it into my life. My mom, who is somebody that didn't understand the sport, speaks it into my life. My assistants, my coaches, like Ryan, everyone. Like I have the right people around me, but nobody can do it for me but me.
But there's something to be said about having support in your life, because if you have the wrong type of environment and people are saying things that are not congruent with who you want to become, it's never going to happen either, right? And I think like sometimes I have clients who are like, oh, my husband said I can never be good at this. I'm like, fuck that guy. Yeah. What does he know?
Yeah.
Like, what does he know about the sport? Like he's just saying whatever he feels like saying based on nothing, And so like the reason I say it, fuck that guy, because I understand that, how can somebody thrive in an environment like that? And I want them to just like completely dismiss those type of comments, and not, put any sort of value, place any sort of value on that.
Yeah.
Right. And obviously, that with the people you work with, because everyone has a different background, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So what's next for you? You're doing a show when?
Well, we're going to do 29th of July.
Yeah.
And then the week after the 5th of August, which is regional nationals.
So the next time we have you on the
podcast. Yeah. Because I sucked.
Keep that in your mind. Don't forget. Don't lose sight of it.
I have to requalify.
Yeah. So the next time we have you on the podcast, we can expect that you're going to be a pro?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Are you going to do it?
Yeah. Good. Not maybe.
No,
hopefully.
100%.
Okay.
I'm envisioning it already.
I'm going to hold you to it.
It's done.
This is your accountability. We're going to hold you to it now. Good.
I got the whole world holding me accountable now.
Good. Well, I thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And we're going to have you on after you turn pro. Thank you, Roxanne.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Good. Where can people find you?
You can contact me on social media. My Instagram handle is Roxanne McLachlan. So just my name and my last name.
Yeah. We'll tag it below too.
Yeah. Perfect.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Roxy.
Thank you.
Guys, make sure you like, subscribe, share the video if you liked it, and stay tuned for more.